You'll have to take a seat in row 1, either first seat, third seat, fifth seat. You need to take the first seat, third seat in row 1. You got to take the third seat in row 1 now. Okay, you're going to have to take the second seat in this row. And you'll have to take the first seat in the last row. No Lester? Okay, so still no Bree, no Griffin yet, right? That's what we're supposed to have. I'm just adding myself up there so you guys can see what's going on. You have to what? You're going to have to in a little bit, not at the very beginning. Okay, so I think that's. All right, I think we should be set. Oh, probably look better. There we go. All right, good Tuesday to you. Your module 15 should be open. So as I said yesterday, we're going to talk about supply, talk about the point of view businesses and what happens with supply and what they're likely to do. First thing, when you look at, there we go. All right, so when we talk about supply, the one thing that you want to realize is that when we talk about this, it's going to be similar to what we did with demand. We're just going to be talking about it from a different point of view. So when back at the beginning of the semester, we had a circular flow model, right? So we had households on one side, and we had businesses, right, factories on the other side. And businesses pay money, right, for the factors of production, land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship that households provided. Households would then take that money, right, and they would spend it on finished goods and services that people wanted, right, or needed. And so what you had then, right, is what we talked about last week. So if you divide this circular flow model in half, this is basically your demand side, right? And we talked about that last week, right? As price goes up, demand goes down, people are less willing to buy goods and services at those prices. This side here is what we're going to talk about this week. This is the supply side. So what happens when businesses related to price, what are they going to do for a product? That's sort of what we are looking at this week. So one of the things that I found yesterday, this is interesting, let me get to here, was this article on what's happening with the supply of chicken wings. Supply of chicken wings during, right, this pandemic closure, what have you, whatever you want to call it, is shrinking. And for a lot of different reasons. This thing goes so slow. Did I? That's about all right, so there's a shortage of chicken wings, and this article goes into it about what is going on, and it fits right into what we're going to look at this week in terms of what happens. So it says restaurants all over the country, from some in Texas to others in Ohio, reporting a shortage, right? So basically, Virginia Beach restaurant, known around the region for their wing fries, make up 40% of their sales at this business, but the suppliers can't deliver all the chicken wings he needs to run his business. And even when he can get a hold of them, the cost is prohibitive, leading him to consider moving to boneless wings made from, right, generally chicken breast. So he goes, we go through 24 cases a week. Right now I'm getting shorted 8 cases. So he's getting 16 a week. I haven't run out because I can go to the restaurant depot and make up the difference, but they're limiting the amount you can buy. There's 3 cases here, 2 cases here. We're having to scramble. So the industry experienced some supply challenges. Having a hard time keeping up with increased demand due to a variety of challenges, mostly because, right, a lot of people, when you go buy chicken, generally the chicken wing is not the most popular for consumers in the grocery store, but when you go to a restaurant, it is, right? So with restaurants closed down, people stop producing, right, supplying these chicken wings based off of what happens. And now the restaurants are opening back up. You've got issues all over the country because now restaurants are open, people want the chicken wings, but there's not much. let's see, with the words about raising dollar wing prices in a lower income area, but doesn't want to switch to frozen wings either, so he keeps prices steady, hopefully making up on other things, right? Wings, like any other food commodity, can fluctuate dramatically in price over the course of the year. Typically, wing prices reach their zenith in the weeks leading up to the Super Bowl and then decline thereafter. So the Super Bowl was February, right? This year has been no normal year. Pandemics disrupted supply chains, reshaped how we live, causing runs on products from toilet paper to electronic thermometers to obscure pasta shapes such as bucatini. Meat prices have been practically vulnerable to supply chain disruption. Barbecue sellers, chicken wings, this spring could be a perfect storm. High demand and supply that's flat at best. Wings are easy and popular takeout option. Made them one of the few categories of food sales increased during the pandemic. Wing sales up 7% from the year before. So it says, if you think about it, restaurants like wing joints and pizza places were built around takeout and delivery. So they need to change their business model during the pandemic. You can see already in February, wing prices hit a high of $2.71 a pound, right? They didn't come down after that, and they didn't come down after the Super Bowl. He said wing prices went up 20 cents a pound just over the previous week, and last week you only got a third of the things of the wings that you order. He refuses to compromise quality, so he's not going to buy frozen. But you can see there, in terms of what's going to happen, wing supplies are tight. I wouldn't go so far as to say there's a shortage. Chicken producers are doing everything they can to overcome the devastating impact of Mother Nature when she inflicted a once-in-a-lifetime winter storm on Texas and nearby states, major producing chicken regions. It'll take time to eventually replace the impact of hatchery supply flocks in that region. The freeze hit in February 2021. So you can see chicken wing production nonetheless has remained steady over the course of 2020. But with these situations, right, you're going to have to adapt or pay for what goes on in that instance. So you can see here, in terms of supply, what businesses are able to do. If they can't get their hands on a product, they're generally going to have to adapt or think of another way to utilize that product. So supply, as we've said, is going to be the number of goods and services that businesses are willing to supply at a certain price point, right? Similar to what we did last week, except the other side of the circular flow model. So supply is the quantities of a good or service, right? Willing to supply at different price points. We have the same thing, supply schedule, supply curve, just like we did last week with the demand schedule, demand curve. We have market supply. That would be all of the wing places. So it would be Buffalo Wild Wings, Wingstop. If you put Applebee's, all the places that sold wings, that would be your market supply in this area. And then the law of supply is a little bit different than the law of demand. So the law of supply is going to tell you this. As the price of a product goes up, suppliers are willing to provide more of that good or service at that particular price because they can make more revenue and thus more profit. So it's a little bit different than demand. But as price of said product or service goes down, suppliers are willing to provide less. So you're going to have a balancing act between both sides. Supply schedule is going to be set up the same way. You're going to have price on the left. This time you're going to have supply on the right. And so that means at $1, you might have 50. At 50 cents, you might have 25. At 25 cents, you might have 10, right? That's going to follow the law of supply. As the price goes up, supply goes up. As the price goes down, supply goes down, right? And then on your curve, because it's different, price is still going to be on the left, supply is going to be on the right, your origin is going to be here, and this slope is going to be downward this time. So at $1, we have 50 that would be supplied. At 50 cents, we have 25 that would be supplied. And at 25 cents, we would have 10 that would be supplied. So if you'll notice, your supply curve slopes the other way, right? And that's because the law of supply is different than the law of demand. But we can still put that into a picture in terms of a schedule, we can still put it into a picture in terms of a curve, right? So this is just from the point of view, as I said, from all of the businesses on the other side of the circular flow model. All right. So law of supply and changing the supply. You want to be able to explain the law of supply, explain the price elasticity of supply. So what happens to supply when there's a change in price? Know how to determine if supply is elastic, inelastic, or unitary. It's the same thing. Elastic means that a little change in price can cause a big change in supply. Inelastic means you get a huge change in price and a little change in supply, and unitary isn't exactly equal. So as we said, law of supply, price, and supply are going to go in the same direction. A change in the quantity supplied is going to do the same thing that we saw with demand. So if we have a change in supply, right? So this is price again, this is supply, this is original supply. If we have an increase, because we know that the origin is 0, 0, any movement is an increase, right? So this would be S1. Any decrease, right, be S2, closer to 0. So it's the same thing, it's just slopes at a different, right? So change in the supply is a change in the number of units supplied at every price. Law of supply tells us, right, just this here, right? And you can see that there. So this is the same thing that we had last week, right? There's your left-hand column of price, right-hand column of supply, and then you can see that it is moving in the same direction. As price of a product goes up, businesses are willing to supply more of that good or service. If you come here to the other side, right, and the price, I'll put that in red, the price goes down, right, businesses are going to provide less and less. It's going to be the same thing with the chicken wings, right? When the chicken wings start to go down in price, whether because people give up trying to get them, people trying to get up using them, people are going to provide less until you get to the point where, as we approach the Super Bowl next year, and it gets closer and closer, they'll want to take advantage of that price change, and they will continue to supply more. They'll ratchet that up. This here is the same thing as the supply schedule, except it's put into a picture. So these corresponding points are the same thing that we saw on the schedule, right? So all of these points are related to a point there on the schedule. At $7, we have 220 of those goods provided. At $6, we have 200. At $5, we have 180. At $4, we have 160, right? If we were to go to 350 right here, at 350, right, going across, we would expect how many right here? How many are you going to have? 150, yeah. Easy, right? So just like last week, the only difference is that because the law of supply says that they'll supply more when the price goes up, your curve slopes different. That's the only difference between this week and last. All right, so this here, as I said, would be if we took all of the places, if we were to use chicken wings, in this case it's sandwiches, right? If you took all of the sandwich shops, all of the wing shops in Santa Maria Orchid, that gives you market supply. So market supply is just all of the places that provide that good or service, right? Where normal supply is just one or the other. then, as I said, if, right, you have a change in supply, remember, right here at the origin where you have 0, a move to the right means that we had an increase. A move to the right means we have an increase because we're getting farther away from 0 right there. A move to the left means that we have a decrease. So if it goes here, right, if it goes this way, that means we're closer to 0. We have a decrease in what happens. And that's what you're seeing with chicken wings, right? The freeze, the chicken places cannot produce enough. You're seeing a decrease in the chicken wing supply. That means that entire curve is shifting to the left. The quantity supplied is just not available for them. So as we said, market supply is going to be all of the places that sell subs, chicken wings in that area. That's the market supply schedule. You can put that same information into a curve. And then this here is from earlier, but we'll pick up where it affects this unit in terms of production. So we know the factors of production are land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. What you have, right, in the development of goods and services through a business is the combination or use of these factors of production to make a product. The total product is all units of a product produced in a given period of time, whether it be a week, a month, whatever they set that time period to. The average product is the number of units of output produced per unit of that input per time. So units of output, units of input, right? So if you had a factory and you had 5 employees, they produced 50 pillows a day, their average product is going to be 10 pillows a day, right? So it's nothing very complex. So businesses are most worried about production costs. And the reason that is if you look at a business, their profit, right? Their profit is equal to the total revenue minus their expenses, right? So production costs would go into their expenses. They want production costs to be as low as possible. Marginal product of labor, the change in output of hiring one more worker. In that example before, let's say that you're the My Pillow guy, right? You make 50 pillows a day at your factory because you have 10 employees that can produce 10 pillows a day. You're thinking about expanding, right? When you expand, right? When you expand, let's say you go to 15 employees, right? That's all right. All right, so if you go to 15 employees, all right, and all of a sudden you start making 75 pillows a day, right? Your total product is going to be 75 divided by 15. That's going to be 2, 4, 6, 7, is that right? No, it's going to be less than that. 2 pillows would be 30. 4 pillows would be 60. 5, right? So 5 pillows, right? So your marginal product of labor by adding 5 employees actually reduces your productivity, right? So that's not something that you want to do. So businesses will do that to figure out what is the best combination of labor, factors of production to get the most out of what we have. So in that case, we had decreasing marginal returns, right? We had 10 employees creating, 10 employees creating 5 pillows a day. We had 15 creating 75 a day, right? Depending on the output, you can have increasing marginal returns with your addition of labor or land or capital or business knowledge, decreasing, or you could even have negative in terms of what happens. So examples of fixed costs for suppliers is going to be your production facility, property taxes, and salaries, things that you pay every month. Variable costs would be things like raw materials, electricity, heating. These things can change from month to month, right? Price of gasoline goes up, goes down. That's going to be a variable cost, right? So last time I looked, gas was 409. Then all of a sudden it jumps to 419 this morning, right? My variable cost just went up. Those things can change from month to month, time to time. Marginal cost is the additional cost of producing one more unit. Marginal revenue is the additional income from selling one more unit. Your operating cost is the cost of your fixed costs, and your variable cost, what it costs to run all of those things. So businesses are looking at the difference between what it costs them and what they can sell their product at. So businesses and firms, right, look at the total revenue minus the operating cost, because that is going to give them their profit, right? And the bigger the profit, the more money they make, the more they can expand. So that's what they're going to be looking at there. All right, so there's some things, just like with consumers, where the government has protection agencies, right? Food and Drug Administration, Safety Transportation, things like that. But the government can influence supply. Government can affect supply of a good or service, raising the cost of a good or service, lowering the cost of a good or service, depending on what they do, right? Trump gets into office, first thing he does is put a tariff on Chinese imported steel, right? Hopefully helping American steel workers, right? We pay cotton farmers. Sometimes we pay corn farmers, wheat farmers not to grow. Farmers are given a subsidy, right? We can put taxes on things, taxes that we want to discourage people from using. We put taxes on hotels to raise money for stadiums, what have you. So the government can get involved in a number of different ways. They can also regulate. In the 50s and 60s, when they regulated car safety and required safety belts, seat belts in cars, that raised the cost of the car. So all of these different things have effect on price. That price, when it goes up, you'll see, right, suppliers be willing to supply more of that. You also have future expectations of price. If the price should rise in the future, right, as a store of value, right, if it's going to fall in the future, you'll see people sell or try to get out. Similar to what you see, right, in your stock market. And then the number of suppliers. There's a positive relationship between the number of suppliers and the market supply curve moves in the same direction. So what that is saying, if the government makes it harder for businesses to sell a certain product, what you'll see is that the number of producers will go down because of the regulation. If you look at that mobile car wash ordinance from the city that we talked about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, it's going to make it harder for those people to do business. What you'll see is a corresponding drop in the number of people that are willing to supply that business, right? They don't want to put the investment into doing that. If they had made it easier, you would have seen the number of producers go up, and you would have seen the supply of that mobile detailing business and the service they provide go up. So government can have a direct relationship and effect on supply in terms of what they're doing. And then just like demand, supply can be affected by price, right? Price of chicken wings goes up during the time leading up to the Super Bowl. You'll see more and more grocery stores, more and more suppliers of that product be willing to supply that good. So same as before. If a product is very responsive to even a small change in price, it's elastic. If you have a 20, 30% change in the price of a product and supply barely changes, it's inelastic. An equal response is unitary, and it's figured out the same way. So you can have, right, some different things happen. Technological changes, cost of inputs, right? Basically, all of those chickens probably froze to death. So your cost of inputs in replacing those chickens went up. Technological improvements usually increase productivity. Computer technology, machine improvements, robots, three-dimensional printing, things like that. The change in the cost of input usually raises the price of goods. Higher labor costs, the variable cost of gasoline going up, et cetera. So you'll see that over a period of time as well. Okay, so let me open this up and we'll see if we can do that. Okay. So go ahead and click on that, see if that'll open. We'll go over this together. So what we're going to do is look at sort of the supply and what will happen based off a particular chain. Remember that a movement right is an increase because it's away from the origin. A movement left is a decrease because it's closer to the origin. The origin is 0, 0. Slowest stuff in the origin. Okay, so it says read the following 7 newspaper headlines. In each case, decide if the event will cause any change in the supply of cars, and so determine if it is an increase or decrease and write the correct answer. So increase or decrease is what you're writing. Begin at C. If you think the headline 1 means there'll be a decrease in supply, write decrease in the first blank and D in the second blank. Move to the curve B to do headline 2, so on and so forth. So they're giving you 7 scenarios, and they're asking you what you think will happen. So in 1, it says auto workers union agrees to waive and fringe cuts. Auto workers in a car business are labor, right? New robot technology increases efficiency, right? So that is an input, right? That would be capital. New auto import quotas reduce flow for foreign cars. Quotas are similar to tariffs. Quotas mean that you are only allowing so many cars from outside of the country to come in. The cost of steel rises. That's an input. Steel then would be a form, in this case, probably of capital, right? A finished good or service used in making another good or service. Auto producer goes bankrupt, closes operation, and then buyers reject new models, all right? So for 1 through 7, put, and you're starting at C, remember, put whether you think it's going to be an increase or a decrease, and then what curve. So this is curve A, this is curve B, C, D, and E. You're starting at curve E. If you think it's a decrease, you would put decrease and then curve E. If you think it's an increase, right, you would put increase and then curve D on that. So for 1 through 14, put what you think is going to happen. So let's go with what we've got here. All right, so the first one says Auto Workers Union agrees to wage and fringe cuts. Auto Workers Union, right, is going to be a source of labor. If we're talking about the supply of businesses willing to provide, if they agree to a wage and fringe cut that lowers the cost of labor, what's that going to do to supply? Increase it. Good. So on one, you would say that's an increase. And if we have an increase, we're going from curve C. This is 0, 0, and increase is always to the right. That means you go to curve what? D. Perfect. All right. So then 2, new robot technology increases efficiency. We said earlier that new technology generally increases efficiency and makes it cheaper, right? If the inputs are cheaper, right? If the inputs are cheaper, you're going to see supply increase or decrease. Yeah, it increase because it costs them less to make each good now, right? It costs them less to make each good. So here again, you would have an increase on number 3. And if we were at curve D and we have another increase, we're going to be at curve D. All right, so this would be increase and this would be curve E. This was curve D. All right, so then when you look at 4, new auto import quotas reduce, right, the flow of foreign cars. We know that reduce means a takeaway, so this is going to be a decrease, right? Does that make sense? And if we were at curve E, right, if we're at curve E and we subtract, then we're going to be at curve E again, right? Oh, down on the bottom? All right. Let's see it. Here. No, let's see it. What does it say on that? Nationwide auto strike. Oh, okay. So auto strike, right? If everybody goes on strike, that's going to be labor on that one. Let's see if I can get this to come up. Everybody goes on strike, your labor, right, goes down. Labor goes down, you're still going to go to the left, right? So a decrease would be curve D. So 5 should be decreased and 6 should be curve D. That means that when we get to 7 and 8, we still have a reduction, right? Now we're at curve D. We had another decrease. So this is going to be decrease here, and this would be curve. If you have a decrease in D, you're going to go to C, right? The cost of inputs rises. When the cost of inputs rise, supply goes down, right? It costs them more to make the same amount of product. So again, here on 9, we would have a decrease. And if we were at C, we would then go to B. Good. All right. 6, auto producer goes bankrupt, closes operation. Decrease again. Right? If you have one automaker that makes cars, all of a sudden stop making cars, you have less cars than you did before. And if you're at curve B and you had a decrease, you're going to go to curve A. All right. And then what happens if buyers come out and they don't like the new models? So they go to the car lots and they don't like the new models, they don't buy it. What happens to supply? Yes. Very good. So on 13, it stays the same. And that means that you stay at curve A. Right, because you're at A. You stay at curve A. Okay. So I'll let you finish the ones on the bottom here after we make our trades. Our stocks. Okay, so the top three teams is this period. All right, and we are very, very close. Group 3, you are in first place. It looks like by what, $193 roughly. Group 2, you're right on their heels. Group 3, you moved up 2. You're up $819. Looks like you made $600 in 4 days, right? So things are very, very close in terms of what happens. I'll put you in your groups. You just need to make one trade. We'll make one trade tomorrow. The markets were up this morning. Let's see what they're at now. Bitcoin dropped like 45,000, I think, a day or two ago, and now it's back up to like 53. Well, now the markets are down this morning. That's not good. What happened? Stocks pulled back as investors await big tech earnings. Okay, so there's quarterly reports coming out. That seems to be the issue. People are going to wait to see what happens. Same thing with Tesla. Tesla released their quarterly earnings yesterday, I think at 2:30 our time. Let's see what our biggest gainers are today. It loads up. It's not going to load. I wonder if it'll load faster after this one. Well, no, maybe. There we go. All right, let's try it here. All right, did it change on your screen yet or no? Not really, huh? Yeah, I was just seeing if it's working for the ones at home. Okay, well, anyway, I can just read them to your biggest stock gain so far today. UPS, look at that, up 18 points, 10%, up to $194 a share. Crocs Inc. is up $14 a share. So that may be something to look at. Your big losers so far: Microvision, MedSpace Holdings, Amcor Technology, Harbor Energy, and DACO New Energy. So that could be something to look at. Let's put you in your breakout room. So as I said, only make one trade today. All right, so group 1. is Casey. A lot of sirens today. I don't know what the deal is with that. Okay, so you're going to make one trade, one buy or sell. Group one, you know what you're going to trade? Group one, somebody's got to talk.
I tried to get Harbor Energy, but it was under $5. So
Yeah, it won't let you buy it.
what you bought.
Group three, what are you buying?
We did have one, but I guess it didn't work out. So
Okay.
Got it.
Group three, let's get this done. The entire class waiting on you. Make a buy or a sell. Group 3, what are you doing? Are you buying in a stock or are you selling a stock? What you doing?
We'll buy.
Okay. Let's get that going. I shouldn't come in your room and see everybody muted. There's no way to get anything done. Let's go. Drive me crazy. Okay, so I'm not going to make the entire class wait for group 3 to figure out what in the world they're doing. So first thing you need to make sure that you have done is the supply, change in supply. So make sure that you finish 15 through 18 and make sure that you get that turned in. Tomorrow we'll talk about one of the supply case studies and then review for the unit on supply. Also, we'll make your second trade. When you get into those breakout rooms, you need to discuss whether you want to buy, whether you want to sell any of your holdings and get those things done. We should not be taking 10, 15 minutes to make one trade. You need to get that stuff done. Everybody in group 1 and group 2, you can go. Group 3, you're staying.
I just made a trade.
Bye. Have a good day.
Thank you, you too. Okay, so group 3, you're leading the competition. There's nothing really that's losing you a lot of money, so you should be buying. As long as everything that you have is staying, and I'll show you here, is staying in the black, right? Those black numbers are things that you are making money on. You don't want to sell any of those things. So next time, to save yourself time, when you go to account holdings, just check and make sure, right, that you're still making money. See, everything in red is in pennies. I mean, your biggest loser right here is this corporate bond, it looks like. But I would hang on to that because those payment dates come due in May. So your group should be focusing on buys, taking some of your profits and then repurposing them. All right, we will see you tomorrow.